claims that are pretty outlandish, but I can back them up. Boom. End of story. There is no other crypto out there, so don't get it twisted. If you don't understand where you're parking your money, you're gonna pay the consequences for that, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Boom. We're obliterating everybody, literally. There is nobody else that comes close to what Hex has done. Boom. Oh, it's about to get funky. Funkier than you could have ever imagined. You know, Richard Hart is a boss. Hex is literally the best thing on the planet. It's simple mathematics. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. Yep. That's it. Yep. That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. Shit, motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all deep. Everybody. My God. Ex-Asians, bro. Everybody. Australians, man. Everybody gets me. Yo, when is it told you? Dollar Cost told you. Everybody done told you. It's crazy. Oh, boom. What's up, everybody?
There we go. Man, I'm from that intro. It's been so long.
Yeah, right. I'm hype as hell, man. I haven't heard it in so long. We got to stream more often, bro. Seriously.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, I know we get a little too busy with work and stuff, but man, that intro makes it worth it every time.
It does. I'm fully loaded, ready to go now.
Yeah. I'm all hype and more hype. So, yo, what's up to everybody in the chat? We've been going 100 miles an hour for really the past 2 weeks with all the stuff we're working on in the real world. Thank you, Alan, for the $5 super chat. Let's see. Jay, Jen, Hex, and I think surgery for the eye is too expensive. Here's $5 for an eye patch. Good luck. I like the way you think, bro.
Thank you, sir. Eye patch is much cheaper, and it stops the confusion. All right. So which eye do we look at? Right. And you don't want to look into the crazy one. You never want to get pulled into that vector. You just leave that one alone. Okay.
No, just steer clear. Just steer clear. Oh man. So hey, if you are ready for Pulsechain, opportunity is presently evident, because what's happened is we've had a nice retracement from that 22 cent area. Was it 20 cent? Yeah, 20 cent area. From May 4th all the way down to what we end up seeing 2 days ago, 9.7 cents per V2 on the Uniswap site. Now we'll pull up charts later. I'm just busy with other stuff right now, but like these are the kinds of things that defines a person that understands Hex versus a person that doesn't. Right? Now, why do we care about the dollar value of something that is actually just a piece of software? Right? Like we're sitting here talking about, hey, we're taking this amount of dollars, we're putting it in this place where it's going to earn us yield, and that yield is paid in the form of crypto. Right? Now, crypto exists because counterparty risk is a bad thing. Right? And the only way that was conceivable at the time of the inception of cryptocurrency to get rid of counterparty risk was by automating the facilitation, right, of the order. And what I mean by those fancy words is by finding a way to have a computer allow you to buy and or sell. That's it. So in 2008, 2009, we see the creation of Bitcoin. Now, if you've ever looked at the first line of the abstract of the Bitcoin white paper, it tells you succinctly what cryptocurrency is right there. And I gave you a very haphazard, loose definition of what cryptocurrency is a moment ago. But just to give it succinctly once again, it's really just a piece of software that allows you to conduct financial transactions without any intermediaries. And that's the key, right? Because you can always have all kinds of software and still have quote unquote middlemen involved. But cryptocurrency itself, meaning the tool you're using to engage the market, has no middlemen, right? And this is different from something like a layer one, for example, where you need to have a team that's running checks on the network or whatever have you, right? Whatever, all that fun stuff the L1s do, because that's a whole nother heap of work over there to take into account, because it's not just Hex, right? It's not just Hex running on some encapsulated code on Ethereum. This is completely different. This is now going to be Pulsechain, the whole thing, right? So it's a different vantage point from that perspective. But when we're looking at Hex itself, it's a very plain vanilla cryptocurrency that does something very specific, right? And that's kind of what makes it so powerful. You have software, immutable, no admin keys, and does something specific that everybody wants, right? So understanding that first basic tenet of cryptocurrency is very critical. Good software, right,
Yeah.
Steve? Like,
yeah, exactly. And that's what also makes it literally the only crypto. So let's define that is everything else is a promise coin. So when we talk about the crypto space is what you see on social media, what you see on YouTube, the YouTubers, influencers, etc. They're talking about the promise coin space. So let's define this properly, right? If we're talking about crypto, there's literally one that exists right now, and that's
right
Hex.
now. Yep, that's it.
Soon to be Pulse.
Just by the definition that's been given to us by those that literally birthed, right, the concept of cryptocurrency. Because why did cryptocurrency come to be in the first place? And this is why the definition is important to understand. Because what are we doing if we're just trying to wash, rinse, and repeat the same thing that already exists? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Why would we do that?
Yeah, I don't get that. But this is how you know the difference, right, from the promise coin space and the actual cryptocurrency space. The actual cryptocurrency space is not trying to replicate what's already been done in the stock market. It's actually wants to do the opposite.
And that's the biggest wool being pulled over the eyes of the promise coin space, is that they still think that they're in the crypto market. It's like those movies to where there's like this tiny little ecosystem and scene that's being painted. And then all of a sudden the character breaks out of that scene and you realize he's in a much bigger environment and world than he realized. And it's like this whole huge epiphany, right? We've seen that in movies. Prey, the video game, is a huge example of that, like thinking that this is reality. And then all of a sudden reality is shattered into this much bigger environment is opened up. It's the same thing that's happening. It's just that space hasn't yet realized it. So that's why literally everyone is just getting in line with it. Yeah, okay, Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin. Bitcoin fixes this. Yeah, Bitcoin's the answer. Because now we've gone through 4 years of rug pulls and billions and billions and billions of dollars being pulled out of the market by scams and bankers. And now they're reshaping this to literally be just legacy banking 2.0. So everyone's just fall back on like what's easy, what's simple. And what's simple right now to say and act like is, oh yeah, Bitcoin. Right, but secretly take payments from other coins and other promises as well, because I won't publicize that, because I need to get paid, and I'm out here talking about Bitcoin and nobody's paying me, so I'm going to get paid to shill, or I'm going to get paid to speak, and those things are happening behind the scenes. It's just they're not being discussed because they fear that they can't talk about it. And this actually came up from like a female influencer was talking about the fact that this was weeks ago, maybe even a month ago now, that she literally can't go online and talk about these other projects and things that ways she's been paid, because she knows that Bitcoin maxis would just completely crucify her. And if you look at unhinged personalities like Max Kaiser, that's why.
Yeah, no.
That's why, dude. That guy's crazy.
Yeah, I can't help but laugh. It's kind of foul, right? Because I mean, this is kind of the problem that we see worldwide right now. That people think that others just can't talk or say or speak or do or think, or I don't know, man. People just out of control, and they seem to just forget that they just need to worry about themselves, not about others.
True. And time out. You're talking about freedom of speech, freedom of sovereignty, freedom of movement, but yet you're shutting down conversation about coins you don't like. Like, they're the biggest fucking hypocrites out there. They're no different than the fucking Democrat senators and shit you see that are trying to like stir everybody up every other week.
Literally.
Let's talk about that for a second. You got to understand the game right now and just how much pressure is put on you. You might not see it, or maybe you just don't see it often enough, but like there's a lot of pressure out there right now. You're getting hit from every angle. You're getting hit from media. You're getting hit on social media. You're getting hit on all these forms of town square meetings, right? With all this bad shit. So naturally, it's going to invite you to do what? React emotionally.
That's right.
You gotta keep tabs on that, guys. You gotta have higher self-awareness. And if you do get drug into that, you gotta be big enough to say, hey, you know what? Actually, I just got drug into this with my emotions. Fuck. Okay, let me get everyone together that was involved in this and apologize. That's being the bigger person. Is when you fuck up or you go out there and you're just guns blazing emotionally. Like pull everybody in that was involved and apologize. Face them and apologize. That's how we do shit. That's how good people do shit. So if we see that it's happening in the community right now, which is why I don't really get involved in the community that much, because this shit's annoying. So all it is that I get it. The pressures out there are fucking big, right? And it's just as big for us. Like, we got all the shit that we're trying to build in the background. We got, all the shit popping off on social media. Like, we got the same pressures. But at the same time, people like Whales, etc., are trying to like build great shit for the community. So remember that. Like, they ain't changed a bit. Just like Hex's code hasn't changed, but people are selling today. So who's wrong here? Who's got the mental condition? The sellers, or the motherfuckers who haven't changed 1 ounce?
It's kind of funny, right? It's kind of funny.
Let's get it together. Let's take some deep breaths. Let's get it together. Go do some yoga, something. Do a psychedelic experience. Get a reset, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we see a major price dump, man. If we're lucky, we'll get a repeat. I mean, I remember when prices were like 5-6 cents, man. And we all had this eerie feeling that we were just never going to see those levels again. And we haven't. Since prices left that area, we've never been back there. And I'll tell you what, I would not be unhappy to see them again. For 2 reasons. One, see a whole lot of people cry and complain because they were not staked. That's right, because they are not actually staked. And 2, allow me the opportunity to buy some more Hex, because why not?
Yeah, dude, that Alan in the chat, all the pressure got Steve's eyes all out of whack. Oh, that got me, dude. You're right. Like, you want to know how that happens? That's how that happens.
Yeah. So why is it that it's positive when Hex goes down in price? Well, let me ask you this. How is it not positive to pick up something that does a 40 or 10 to 40% yield on a discount? That's the question I have that I would love the answer to.
Yeah. And again, nothing's changed. So I thought the game was to get as much of this shit as humanly possible, as many fucking T-shares as you possibly could get. I thought that was the game. So when we get served up 9 cents, 8 cents, 5 cents, whatever the fuck it goes to, that's a gift, right? That's like Christmas. How come we ain't acting like it's Christmas morning and we just got like the best gift possible? A brand new Nintendo under the Christmas tree. We're not acting like that. We're acting like, oh my God, something's broken. We're panicking. We're letting all the pressure, it's like almost like that's the excuse people use to open the floodgates of all the other pressures in life to then be like, oh, okay, got it, sell. Like, you see it happening right now today. How many millions of Hex have been sold today? Why? Why are you fucking selling today? What has changed, my man? What has changed in the fucking code? Nothing.
The date.
The date. And it's changed positively. It's rolled over another 24-hour period that this code ran flawlessly.
Oh my God. I mean, look, man, I gotta say, it's a very simple equation. The idea is we're trying to remove ourselves from one economic system into another. Now, there's some basic understanding that is required in order to grasp that simple thing, because for a lot of people, this is just some kind of money grab. And those are going to be the folks that get left behind.
Yeah, and get rinsed. They always are.
They're definitely
That's dumb money. That's essentially dumb money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Every time. And the thing about it is that they think they're being smart. And the thing about it is that when you think you're being smart, it typically means you're missing something, because the bigger picture is much more significant than what you think you're being smart about. And that's typically what gets most people.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
trying to be slick, trying to be clever.
yeah.
And that's the promise coin space. That's what that teaches you. That's what the day traders teach you. You know, like I posted the other day, like conspiracy of the day is that they invented linear charts to obfuscate data even more and rinse you and get you to lose even more money. Like, it's funny because it's like, oh, that's absurd. But is it? Like, things like that exist for a reason. Like, influencers exist for a reason. Jim Cramer's been allowed to be on national television for 20 years and have the
100%.
worst track record ever for a reason. He rolls up his sleeves every day and loosens his ties so that he can relate to the everyday working man, you know, who just got off work, who needs some financial advice for the day. What the fuck? What are you talking about, dude? We don't need that shit.
Surely do not. There's
we
no
need
reason.
People telling us how to protect and grow our motherfucking money. That's it. And that guy ain't doing it.
Nah, nobody's doing that. Nobody is doing that, actually. Nobody. And that's kind of the funny thing. That's, you know, I remember when I first started learning this game. When I first started learning this game, what did I do? What everybody else does. Go to TV to try to get information because that's what you think is a sensible thing to do. But what ends up happening is you realize that when you get this information from TV, it actually ends up being the information that's going to get you wrecked. And I learned that literally the first few days. It did not take me long, because by the time they report stuff on TV, it's actually already happened. The event is null and void, and you're just getting the aftershock news. Really, is all you're getting. Oh, this happened.
Yeah.
Not, this is going to happen. Yeah, it's already passed.
It's already passed. Yeah.
But we're trained to think that there's some type of value in that towards the future, but there isn't. There never is. In fact, you're best served taking the opposite transaction of whatever the sentiment is being shared. So if they're saying, "Oh, price pump 10%, blah 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 blah," sell it. That's what your logical reaction should be. But innately, it's not, because they're trying to excite you, right? They're triggering your emotions and all of that, and that's how they kind of get you, right? Because they're tipping all they're leaning on your emotional scales, so to speak. And thanks for the super chat. I appreciate that. People cry because others got cheap HEX. Then they get an opportunity and cry harder than Democrats on election day. That's a fact, baby.
That's a fact, yeah. And so Moffitt, Monica Moffitt was saying, yeah, it's tough to wake up with that Christmas feeling every morning. I agree with you if you ain't got liquid cash to get in.
Yeah.
I'd be feeling all sorts of ways too. Like, and I think that's what creeps in for most people. It's like most people start to hate these dips when they're either too afraid to allocate more capital, they don't have more capital, or they're confused on which direction to go and they've got uncertainty. Then that's when you tend to see them react and lash out, which again boils back down to the first thing we talked about, which is like handling your emotions, self-awareness, etc., and keeping your own house in order, right?
Yep. And I mean, even before that, I mean, you got to do your due diligence and understand what you own, because if you don't understand first off that this is software, then you are basically not understanding what you're doing.
Yeah, to the highest degree, you're not understanding what you're holding, really.
Yeah, you're not.
Oh, you know what I was going to say on what you said about news coming out after it's already happened? The perfect example of this, and there's different time frames to different pieces of data, obviously, but inflation. We were all seeing inflation, almost a year ago? But now it's being talked about. It's being talked about.
Well, now it's a party, right? Now it's an inflation party.
Yes. And we're like, oh, yeah. Inflation's bad. Inflation's bad. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's going to move the markets when that's discussed and rates are either raised or lowered. Now that's moving the market. Why though, dude? We knew this was here because we felt it at the shopping, going to get our groceries over a year ago.
Literally.
We knew the supply chain issues were coming because they shut down the entire fucking world. Like, we saw this, dude. Like, you don't have to be Nostradamus. We saw this.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, we literally talked about it I talked about it for a year, then you shut up and we kept talking about it from that point on. Like, what is going on here? Right? And now they want to come try to blame everything on one incident that has nothing to do with everything else.
Yeah, and so we're the suckers for falling for that. Like the Russian Putin rate hike. What? Shut up.
Really? I didn't see that one.
Like that should be the responses. Like when they come out, like
God.
the admin comes out and says, "Oh, this is why inflation's high." Every single comment should be, "Bitch, shut up."
Pretty much, because you know it's been high for decades.
Yeah, stop trying to play me and drop frames on me of this fucking garbage. Just stop it.
Literally. Literally. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
Okay, so let's talk about another one. The yield curve inversion happened in 2019.
Man,
so the first one happened in 2019, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking about it, but
I think it's time for some spread charts.
Yeah, let's do it. So let me give a little backstory while you're pulling that up.
Sure.
I was talking about it at this time, and I was like, well, statistically, 12 to 18 months, there's a recession. Like, and the data was crazy. It was like 10 out of the last 12 times or something it had happened, right? It was very high probability. And I'm like, but the thing is, like, the markets seem pretty good right now. You know, like there's no real blood in the streets. And so outside of a black swan, I don't think this can happen. What do you know happened next? A fucking black swan, hey? C19 rolls out and bang, there's your recession.
Done. Forever.
But we just crossed yield inversions again. We just did that same cross again. What was it, March?
Yeah.
So 12 to 18 months. Like, are we out of this? Probably not.
Probably not. I don't think we are. I mean, I think we're really going to see some serious downward pressure in the market across the board, just because people are so nonchalant about the risk that exists. Yeah. And I honestly don't understand why people are acting like they haven't seen what the hell these people have been doing for the past 2 years. But hey, man,
it's more like power to them.
Yeah,
it's like people are really numb to the risk that's in the market right now. Like, why the fuck would you want to be in traditional market right now? Even Bitcoin right now, it's whipsawing between 28 and 31,000. Liquidation right there. It's literally just running stops up and down, up and down.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was on a phone call before we streamed, and just working on some strategy about ETH and lower or whatever. And when you sit here looking at this chart, at the time it was 1970, 1950. And I was theorizing that we might see a push down to 1500 if we do break this. Let me get rid of this damn profile stuff. If we do break this 1800 area, because that's what's been support, for the most part over the past year, right? From February 2021, previous resistance and then support. So we're touching an area where we could see some serious inflection in terms of volatility, right? Because once price breaches this area, what happens? Well, the market gets reflexive. And when the market gets reflexive, what that means is that everybody starts following somebody else. And they just start leaving the market one by one by one. And then they try to make it an orderly thing, but they never really can. Right? And that's kind of the thing that you got to remember. So as we're looking at this chart, you got this area of 1387 here and 1240. Right? So this is only assuming we breach this low area of, what do we got here? 1800. Right?
Yeah,
so it breaches.
Take out that double bottom.
Yeah. So if we do, I'm not confident it's going to stop at 1500, 1400. And I'll show you why. Oh, not what I wanted to throw on there, but it works. So if you look at the volume profile and you look at this little area, I mean, it's kind of hard to see. Like if I zoom in, it's not going to really work well either, but let me see if, yeah, that didn't work as I wanted. Yep. Let me see. Okay, good enough. So this volume node area, high volume node area, is where the most price activity has taken place, right? Going back to last year, this is the area I was talking about. And now what's important about this area is that it sets up the possibility for buyers to enter here to stop the market from going lower. So the question then becomes, well, what happens if the buyers fail and they do step in there? Like, what happens if they step in and they fail? Well, what happens is you open up a trap door, and that trap door leads to 1400, and that's what we see here. So long story short, if the market catches itself on the way down, it'll happen at 1500, which is what you see in this low volume node area. It's typically where it happens, and interestingly enough, it's where you see this indicator pausing itself down here. And if you pay attention to what price does and what these indicators do, they kind of follow each other to a certain extent, right? Like it kind of price led here, the indicator followed, then price stopped here in the future again. I mean, it's only a few ticks off, right? I mean, it's not like it's 20% off. It's really right there. So noticing that, you see you have another area of importance down here, and we're currently at one down here. So if we do break this area down here, man, there's no telling where we're going to go, because we could easily just keep on going, because what's there to stop this? Who are the buyers? Retail's been wiped out. They got to go back to work.
Yeah. I mean, you'd basically be looking for like that next big level volume node to hold. And then if that doesn't, again, there'd be liquidity to be grabbed underneath that. So low volume nodes is usually when liquidity is being grabbed. So it tends to wick down into that area in a positive market. But in a down market, that's just like liquidity will be grabbed from there, and then you'll see a slight dead cat bounce, and then it'll just continue to fall. And then they'll grab from the next, low liquidity area or
like
low volume
this,
node.
basically. Yeah. Like it would hit this area, bounce up. But in this instance, and here's the thing that's interesting, right? You kind of had this pattern happen within these 3 candles, because we're not over with today yet. We still got 16 minutes, right? So the next 16 minutes, this candle will end. And what happened is that if you scale into these 3 candles, you'll see this pattern. So let's go down to the daily. That's a 3-day, and boom, that's what you see.
Yeah, there's a double bottom. So that needs to pull out of here, because a level can only be tested so many times, before it just breaks, right?
Correct.
And this is a pretty major level, as we can see, looking back left in time.
And you can see the high. Hold on,
guys. So yeah, looking back.
Oh, go ahead. No.
I was going to say, looking back left, you see that huge double bottom, that W, and it looks like a big W back there, that played out, and that is the kind of momentum play you want to see from a positive standpoint, right? That's what you want to see. So right now we have the same opportunity to do that. It's up to the buyers to step in though and do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, because some guys some folks are pretty ballsy about the price right here, right now, because, they're very comfortable, complacent. You know what I mean? They just expect, I don't know who, to step in here and buy this. And these guys don't understand in the promise coin space that they're not trading cryptocurrency. And that's the biggest failure that's going to beget a lot of people a lot of pain, because they don't want to respect definitions. And now we've seen the end result of that most recently. All of these protocols, they get exposed, they get hacked, that blow up, that just go haywire. Why does that happen? I mean, that happens because they don't respect the basic tenets of mathematics. That's simply it. Because otherwise, nothing will go out of whack. This is code. This is software. This is all predicated upon math and characters that are all put together to say, hey, do this, if not that.
Yep. That's it. So, literally. If this, then that.
Literally.
That's PHP.
Yeah.
That's like a million different coding languages.
That's all
the
of them.
Basic premise. Yeah.
That's all of them. So, where do we get off pretending that we don't know what software is? Right? Because this is ultimately what gets people wrecked, right? Is them thinking that they have some kind of insider knowledge that nobody else has.
Yeah. Some top secret alfalfa.
Yeah, I mean, why else do you think that investing in anything that's not a cryptocurrency makes sense? And a lot of people do it, even Hexicans. So I'm talking to you if you're watching right now and you got some crap in your book. And you know who you are. I don't got to point it out to you. But
yeah, so promise coins from Bitcoin on down aren't operating as cryptos, right? They used to.
No.
They used to operate as cryptos even though they weren't crypto.
Right.
But now they're operating as equities. Guys,
Correct.
right. They are following the S&P to a T.
To the T. I mean, I don't know how many times I have to show that chart, right? Where I show the charts where I even add the correlation coefficient at the bottom. I mean, you can see how these products just move together. They move in tandem, not opposing, not individually, but in tandem. And this is how you know that they're correlated. It's very simple. It doesn't get more complicated than that. And then when you look at HEX versus the rest, that's just not the case at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, like, what's worse is like giving back all those gains, man. Getting in low 20s in Bitcoin, and you didn't realize any gains. Like, you want to know why Bitcoin maxis are so fucking bitter? It's because most of them have given back gains, and they don't want to admit that that's what's going on. They're once again falling for the same bias, the same emotional fucking bullshit, but they just don't want to admit it. Like, there's not a single Bitcoin holder that's happy right now at 30K. It was almost at 70.
Yeah.
You know how hard it's going to be to get back to 70? Very. Holy shit, dude. A lot.
The market only gets bigger. Because the market only gets bigger, right? The market only gets bigger, and people don't get that. So as time passes, what happens is that the weight of the market gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Right. And what that then entails is that the structure of the market has to change. Is that basically what Ethereum figured out? That's why they're trying to copy HEX now. Pretty simple. Because they understood that they can't dump on their holders' heads and have the price still go up like we can in HEX.
Yeah.
Because every time they make a market top, it's because the Ethereum Foundation is saying, here's the top.
Yeah, we're gonna sell a couple billy.
Have fun.
Here it is, right?
That's literally how every Ethereum top has happened, as far as I know.
Yeah. Well, or it just coincidentally, there's the sell right at the top. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we should definitely like put that in some type of shrine somewhere.
Something. That should be a meme that is like the shields and stuff that Hexagons make.
Yeah,
we need to make that into something.
We need to make some memeify this or something, because man, what is this?
So these are true words that were said. Like they were said by somebody. They're not true themselves. But it just goes to show you the hypocrisy that's baked into what these guys are saying, and they've never stopped to think about this. So time out. You're dogging on inflation as taking away value out of your pocket, but you're claiming you don't care about yield. Do you even know what the fuck yield is, bro? Like, come on, sit down. Do you even know what you're talking about?
I mean, and that whole line of
it's
thought,
fucking rough, dude.
That whole line of thought you just laid out is what makes me think that these people are paid shills and not actual cryptocurrency folk. Like, just think about it. When you sit here and look at the entire space, what is it that people run into when they first find it? All the furus, nothing else.
Yes.
They're not running into Richard Hart. They're not running into me. They're not running into you. They're not running into any Hexagon streamers. They're running into all the furus first and foremost. Standard.
Yeah.
So they're miseducated from the start.
Which is why they're the people we should spend the least amount of time talking to and trying to get involved. Like, that's why it's just like at a basic level, who gives a fuck what Chico Crypto said about HEX? Who gives a fuck what Bitcoin Maxis Peter thinks about HEX? Like, who cares? They mean nothing. Wales has been saying this since the start. They mean
I don't
nothing.
even know who none of these people are. Like, people keep asking me about these random folks. So let's talk about this, because this actually bothers me a little bit. And it's not people's fault, because you guys don't know, but this is something I want you guys to think about. Wales is here in crypto. I'm here teaching you guys about crypto and macro from Wall Street at the same time. Not one or the other. I'm giving you both and how they're intertwined and how they work. Now, what happens is that other people tell me about other macro guys that are just on Wall Street. And I'm just like, okay, well, so what?
What do you want me to do with this?
Like, is he saying something that I'm not? Like, and I get, like, maybe it's an entertainment factor for most people, but I'm a professional. I don't give a fuck about what other people are doing. This is what I've been doing for the past 10 years, and I have a professional way of doing it that, as you guys have experienced from day one, pretty spot on. And
yeah,
guess what? But hold on, but guess what? Who's the guy that's in the future? Me. Those guys don't even know a damn thing about crypto. They're still trying to figure out macro.
True.
Bitch,
True.
I moved on. Tell them to catch up to me if you want me to talk to them. I don't need to talk to them. They need to talk to me.
So if you already know your truth, why do you got to go listen to somebody else?
Exactly.
There's a reason why David Goggins doesn't follow or know what the fuck anyone else is doing. Because he's in his game. He is running his race every motherfucking day, dude. He talks about this in his book, like ad nauseum. That's why he's running his race. He does not care about the race anyone else is running. He is worried about his own race. So if you got the data, if you've got the access to information, and you can clearly draw opinions and thesis off of that, then what does that matter? It's this obsession that we have of like getting all the data. Like then I can make a move. Then I can take an action.
Dangerous
Only
too,
when
right?
I've got all the education can I do something. Very dangerous.
Yeah, that's dangerous. And the reason that's dangerous is because what happens? Well, what happens is that you're telling yourself, I don't know enough to make a decision. I have to rely on somebody else to make a decision. When guess what? You're more than capable, because you're trying to understand what you've already been learning and probably already know, but don't give yourself enough confidence, right? Because that's what this is about. You know, markets are a confidence game.
Yes.
Right? Why do people get mad when markets go against them? Because they thought they were right in being confident in their idea of what the market was going to do moments ago. And it didn't happen. Like, yo, that happens all the time. In fact, that's everything markets are about. Period.
Yeah. And again, going back to that weird behavior. So you got a guy in a market who's confident about his position. He takes a position. He's public about it. And it doesn't really matter if he was right or wrong at that point, like in terms of how it plays out. But yet the market will crucify that guy if he was wrong. Oh, yeah, see, you were, and why? Well, it's because he was being arrogant. Well, okay, arrogance to one is confidence to another. So who's weak and who's operating out of scarcity in this model? The confident guy or the guy who's telling him he's arrogant? Like, why do you think so many people don't like Kanye? He's just confident as fuck, dude. Shouldn't we be? Like, shouldn't you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and say, I fucking love you to yourself? I mean, outside of anybody, outside of God, shouldn't you love yourself the most? I mean, come on, dude. Like, we shouldn't even be having to talk about this shit. This is basic 101 shit of life. It's like you are number one next to whoever you preach to, or like whatever God you believe in.
Yeah, well, you know what's funny? Interestingly enough, when you think about how people are raised and taught to think, they're not taught to think that they're number one in some cases. And then when they're taught to think that they're number one, it's in a very egotistical sense. It's not in a like capacitative sense, as in, yeah, I'm capable of accomplishing this task, right?
Yes.
Like people are more egotistical versus, okay, am I capable of doing this, or should I lean on somebody else to get it done? And, you know, I remember when I was a young man, I used to be embarrassed because I thought I was supposed to just be this encyclopedia, you know, not realizing that, no, that's not how it works. You actually got to keep plugging away. Right. And that's how I got to understand all of these things that I'm now sharing with people today. It wasn't by just stopping and be like, oh, I don't know, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, it don't work like that. You got to put in the work, and you got to be diligent. You got to be persistent. You got to want it. And I'll tell you what, man, people can say they want it all they want, but their actions must line up with that fact. You just saying it don't mean a damn thing. Promise you that.
Like, your value is innate. Your value is just being here. Your value is being a human being. That's it. And we've clearly lost that because, I mean, look at the world around us, right? So the world around us tells us, no, actually, you're not valuable just as you are. You're only valuable for women if you look like this. Get ass shots, get fake breasts, get fake lips, get fake hair, put on 2 pounds of makeup, and et cetera, fill in the gap, right? For men, it's you're only valuable if, and the rule set for men is you provide for the family. You can hunt and gather and kill and bring back, you know, food for the house. You can this, you can that. You got a big dick, you got this, right? So like the rule set is impossible to win based off of all this arbitrary dog shit. The value is fucking there, dude. Like, stop it.
I think the key word out of everything you just said is arbitrary.
Yes.
Arbitrary. Yes. I mean, all right. So what does arbitrary mean? Arbitrary means random. Means just plop, just whatever. Seriously, like just anything, right?
Yep.
So when you look at the world, you look at music, you look at sports, you look at just anything, you know, mathematics, academics, just anything. Everything is always lined up in terms of who's the best, who's the worst. And we're not talking about in the commie world, right? But just in normal world. Forget the commies for a second. What happens? Well, what happens is that people think they're supposed to compete against this imaginary person that they don't know anything about. They just presume to know something about them. They presume that they know what their tactics are, how good they are, what they think about themselves, what all these things that they can't possibly know. And whatever happens is that you just hold on.
Well, and that vision of what you should be is propped up conveniently. So it starts as this random thing, and then enough people get behind it and say, that's the truth, and then it becomes.
Right. I mean, I don't know, man. It's one of those weird topics. Yeah, it's one of those weird topics because
silly.
It's like all you really have to do is kind of want to be yourself, but that's hard because we're sold that that's the worst thing we could do. So hard.
Yeah.
Like that's sold so hard. I remember looking in the mirror as a kid and thinking that there was something wrong with me because that's what was sold to me. And that could happen to anybody.
Well, look like let's bring this right back to the real world is what happened with Richard and the fucking penis conversation. So the only reason why that happened and why that's true is because everyone said it's true. And because we've now lived in a society to where that social conditioning has happened so many years now in a row, so many decades in a row, that is now true. And so it's right that it's bad for image. It's bad for a CEO to talk like that. It's bad for this, fill in the blank. It's only true because we've got decades of experience proving that it is.
Right.
It doesn't mean it is. It's actually not. Like, who cares? Like, holy shit, dude. So again, it's like the delusions and shit that we operate out of. The operating system at its core is so fucking fundamentally broken. That's where all this stems from. All these problems stem from this.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing, right? it reminds me of cancer in a way. Like every time I see the phrase "fuck cancer," I just die laughing because it's a lie.
Yeah,
it's a lie, and it just goes to show how ignorant whoever posted that stupid ass slogan is. How you gonna say "fuck cancer," but yet you're continuing the same habits that are giving you that fucking cancer? Like that defines humans to me. When I think of humans, that's what the fuck I think about. I literally think about that shit at least once a day because it bothers me that much because people are so altruistically stupid that that's what they do. Fuck cancer, but yet let me eat this Mickey D's nonstop. Let me drink all this diet soda. Let me smoke these cigarettes. Let me do all this dumb shit that I know is killing me, but I live a better life than you. Fuck you.
Yeah. or like the stuff you saw with C19. It's a very recent example. Is this stuff is real? Okay, who's saying that? The guy who's got a BMI, who's clearly got issues, smokes, drinks sodas, eats fast food. So it's like, come on, dude. Like you're wanting me to bend truth and reality to fit your worldview because that's more comfortable and convenient for you. And that is essentially what's happening. So, anyways, enough of that shit. Let's get back into it. We got like way lost in the weeds.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's kind of there's so much to go over. It's like it's almost hard, right? Because the market is literally all right. Let me pull up.
But this is the market. What's funny is all this dog shit we just talked about that should be common sense is the market.
It's the market, yeah. Like we're talking about how you look at the world, but it's also how you look at the market. Right. And guys, please save your questions for later. We're just trying to go over some just good data. And then we'll address your questions because we're definitely like 40 minutes in. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I knew this was going to be a big one, dude.
I didn't know it was going to be this fast. Like, damn. Let me just zero that out. All right, let me get rid of this too. Exactly.
So okay, let's talk about this. What is going to move the markets right now? Like, where's the positive narrative? So let's change frames for a second. Okay, so we're on hopium train, right? We're thinking, oh, this is the bottom. It's gonna this. It's gonna that. Okay, where's this positive news going to come from? Like, what could it possibly be? All skepticism aside, what could it possibly be? Okay, it could be positive regulation or legislation passed in the United States, some new breakthrough happening like ETH 2.0 launching, which almost makes me break out into hysterical laughter. It's these types of things. Like China unbans it. I don't know. So it's like there's not a whole lot left there. And the downside, we talk about this a lot, like, as a whole, to zoom out for a second, recessions are only as bad as you make them. Everything has to come back. Mean reversion is true. Like what goes up must come down. Okay. And so it's only as bad as we make it out to be. If you are paying attention, if you are positioned properly, if you have liquid capital on the sidelines every single week out of your paycheck or whatever you got going on, then you will be ahead and you will win harder than everyone else who's not doing that. So that's a very simple strategy right there. Done. Okay. But anyways, getting back into it is like, I think what's happening is that it's just like we're just lulling along here. And what's going to happen is things are going to get significantly worse by like Q3, Q4. And then that final shakeout's going to happen. All the banks have been accumulating Bitcoin during this time. Whatever range we're in now and the next range that we drop down to, that's when they're accumulating. Then the positive regulation is rolled out. There's 3 tranches, and Bitcoin gets thrown into commodity. Everything with a roadmap, a website, a promise in the future, that gets thrown into security. And maybe they roll out something new for DeFi. I doubt it. But they're going to try and just bend everything DeFi to fit into one of those 2 buckets. And then that comes out. All the bankers are already in position. And then boom, maybe moonshot then.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
maybe.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, when you sit here and think about what the space is in its current form, a lot of these protocols are definitely going to get swept under the security rug. And a lot of people just, we can try to teach them that, but I don't know if they're going to grasp that. Like, and this is the whole point of us defining actual cryptocurrency versus one that is not, right? And that's kind of, and when you look back at what happened with ETH, like how did ETH quote unquote get away with it, right? And they got away with it because they were a network that was really like a mini internet, right? Like Ethereum is really a mini internet, and it's a mini internet where financial value is transferred. Like that's the network, right? Or just not Ethereum, but crypto in general. But Ethereum was the first example of this decentralized application reality, right? Where these financial applications were the decentralized applications. And I don't think these people even understand that. So, what positive outlook could there be? I mean, and I think, I don't know about you, Jay, but I'm speaking from a very general perspective, not from just a crypto point of view. Like I always look at markets in a holistic sense, never just a singular. So, from my perspective, I don't really see much of anything that's positive just tucked away. I mean,
yeah, like they're sitting on something. And that's, personally, that's what I kind of miss about Trump is like he had some shit in his back pocket all the time. Like, and he knew how to bring that out at pretty good times. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but he tended to do that much better. So, okay, if we go macro for a second, this administration, which is what drives the price, right? The Fed is their right hand essentially in going and disseminating this out into the market to tell you how to feel. Like, is Biden going to get better? Is he going to get smarter? Is he going to get like a brain surgery and have something functional put up top? I don't know. I don't think so. So it's like, again, how is that going to get better? 10-ish rate hikes, 9 rate hikes, kind of, looking forward. We've got a 50 to 75 base point jump priced in for June. I mean, yeah, there's no real like ace up the sleeve that I'm seeing at this point. No, that's why I think it's just going to kind of keep lulling along. Like maybe they won't rate hike. Okay, wow, big win.
Well, let's talk about that because I didn't even expect them to hike any rates at all because in my mind, they really wanted to break the bank, so to speak. And it's been interesting that they have raised the rate to some extent to the point that the Fed funds rate is now showing as being above 1/4%, which of course doesn't sound like a lot, but you guys got to remember that was 4X's ago. So it's quite something in the grand scheme of things, because the cost of funding, overnight funding, is just 4X.
Yep.
And it's, that doesn't just happen like that. That's a painful experience for the market, and the market has to run through that.
Yeah, it's very, very painful. That is like negative 50 to 90% off of 52-week highs for a majority of growth stocks. Saw that.
100%.
I mean, on this initial shock.
So that's why those tech stocks tanked, right? You got the Netflix, Disney, all those stocks, they tanked last month. Why? Because these rate hikes were being priced in. Or maybe even before that.
Busy day today.
Yeah, it's been retarded all day. Let me close these windows, man. I'll be right back.
I'll give a couple. I got some more in front of me. So here's a weird one. Here's the weirdest one. Zoom was, I think, like 2 days ago, negative 79% off of the 52-week highs. So that is lower than pre-COVID. And during COVID, how many hundreds of thousands of users started using Zoom? Everyone was forced to work from home. That's the weirdest one to me. It's like maybe even millions of users. Like, how many new users did they put on during the last 12 months? And they're worse now, price-wise and valuation-wise, than they were before this happened? How the fuck is that possible?
Isn't that funny?
Well, it was pretty bloated to begin with, is what that tells you.
Pretty much. Overvalued from the jump.
Insanely.
And this is a function, but that's a function of interest rates.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's very difficult for people to get, because what happens is that you have to remember there's an opportunity cost to everything.
Yes.
Right? And that's what we want. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, that little tiny move, that little blip that you see on the Fed fund rate caused 80% losses over a 52-week period, over a 1-year period. Like, what the fuck? Imagine what it's going to look like if we get up to 3%, which is what they want.
Well, it's kind of what has to happen, which is the
funny thing. I won't say what they want. They don't want that. That's what kind of has to happen.
They don't want that. So, okay, remember, you will own nothing and you will be happy. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that you'll have no income, just the income that's given to you.
UBI.
You won't be able to buy anything with that, because they tend to control what you can spend that money on. Okay. And then with that, you're only going to get but limited amounts of money. So it's not like you're going to be, buying a Bentley with this money, because that's the whole point. You will own nothing and be happy. You're not buying anything. You're just going to be there, wasting away.
That is the game of currencies. Of money, of fiat money, is the whole game with that they've played for the longest of times is to extract maximum value. And then as the currency continues to hyperinflate, they're already out. They already are sitting on hard assets, real assets, land, physical shit, boats, fucking water.
Whatever.
Some of them now sitting on water
rates. Durable goods are better, basically.
Yes, and they're already sitting on that. So regardless of what happens to this fiat, it doesn't actually matter, because I own this thing over here that's physical. I can go touch it.
Yep, literally.
And that's the rotation. That's the macro rotation.
That's what's called the balance sheet too, right? Like, if your balance sheet isn't solid, guess what? You're not.
Yeah.
And that's from a valuation perspective also. And this is the main thing of looking at companies from a fundamental perspective. That used to reign, and it just doesn't anymore.
So that's what we're up against, though. Real quick, it's that's what we're up against. And unlike Bitcoin, HEX does fix that.
Yeah.
How does that fix that? Because it puts yield back in your hands. The hundreds of percent that you lose to inflation over a 20-year period puts it back in your hands.
Right back to you.
Right back to you. At the rate that we are at right now, over a 20-year period, you will be negative percentile in terms of value on your money.
Best case scenario. That's a best case scenario. That's assuming the money even exists. All right.
It could be much worse. And so that's what we're up against, dude. So a basic strategy, if you got HEX and you're staked, you're good. Going back to the core topic here, is the name of the game is acquiring more T-shares. That's all that should matter.
Yep.
Everything else is a bonus.
Yeah, if you're not earning yield, then you're not earning at all.
Yeah, like interest rates on savings accounts and stuff are like 0.110% right now, and they're like battling for that. That is like the premier interest rate right now. Even in credit unions like Penn Fed, I think right now is 0.7%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Nobody's getting any kind of yield. Period.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so bad now that okay, do you remember Tina? There's no alternative. Remember that?
Yeah.
So Tina, for those that don't know, is a narrative that's been pumped around for the longest time in the stock market. And what that narrative dictates is that you want to be buying stocks because the yield on the stocks was higher than the yield on the fixed income products that were investment grade or whatever have you. So what that leads to is people essentially ditching the yielding products and buying the engineered financial securitized products such as, SPAC IPOs and crap like that you wouldn't have put money into anyway in the first place. And that's how they get people, caught slipping.
Yeah.
Wash, rinse, repeat happens all the time.
Yeah. Throw up billionaire foresight comment. I actually like this a lot. This is a part of the delusion that I think people still fall for. Is we're playing a game on a longer time horizon. Yeah. We have to be playing a longer time horizon game. So no matter what it does this week, even by the time that we're ready to cash out, unless that's a huge, significant amount, we're still coming out ahead because you have to realize the amount of APY that you're getting. So it's the APY first, and then it's realized in terms of price appreciation. Not the other way around.
It's comments like this that kind of just bother me. It's like if everything was that easy, then why do any other coins go up besides Bitcoin? Like, why does anything ever go up? Like, you got to really look at what is the purpose of people buying something. Why would somebody want to buy something? People typically want something that's going to provide security and no risk in this type of environment. And that's what a fixed income product does. Now, there is no fixed income out there. We just told you that. And HEX is literally the only thing that provides a fixed income that's respectable in any case. So your comment is literally null and void, bro. So good luck with that.
I was going to say something, but I just blanked on what the fuck I was going to say. Oh, well.
I mean, like, the point is you want to get T-shares. And the reason you want to get T-shares is because in this type of environment, that's what pays.
Oh, okay. So I challenge this. So let's look at this part of that narrative is in that environment where everything goes to shit. Will everything stay shit? And then what happens to the market as they're hunting for yield and they see this thing, the only thing, over here, still producing 38%. By then, probably a little bit more because we got a ton of dumpers. Like, you're right from the standpoint that a fuckload of people will dump. Let's not try and hide that. They will dump. They will run the fiat.
We see it right now.
Yeah, dude, they're doing it now.
Dumping for 230 days. What else? There's no secret here. Who cares? That's my comment. Who gives a damn?
Yeah. So my point with that is, like, at some point, I actually think, and this is where I think some magic is going to come into play, is that, okay, and we've already seen this on the other end, Celsius cut rates, trying to go to war with Bitcoin maxis, telling you that, you're going to lose your money because you hold your own keys and you're so stupid, you're going to lose your money. The CEO just said that yesterday. So we've got that angle being played. We've got rewards being cut on CRO. We've got rewards being cut across
let's
the board.
make sure to talk about that later on. The whole Celsius situation is fucking crazy because I talked about this shit a year ago and motherfuckers thought it was a joke. They thought it was a joke. It ain't fucking funny today. I'll tell you that much.
Okay, in that scenario, like, because I like playing these scenarios, like I think that's healthy to do. Like, don't get don't get too caught up in drinking your own Kool-Aid. So, okay, I almost feel like it would get to a point where it'd be so ridiculous and everything would be so far down that it's almost like a fucking shining light on the hill rises. and the shining hill is 38% is not going anywhere for the most part, right? Like that's like the baked in daily average, right? That we see.
So, it's going. Hold on, let me stop you right there and hold your thought. It's going somewhere. People rush in, realizing there's a 38% yield over here.
Yes. Good point.
That's right.
So that is variable. The more people that get in, that will get lower. So just want to clarify that. But that being said, is like at that point, that might be the genesis to the next big wave of adoption for this. Nothing might happen until then. So get used to that. Like that, it might go like that. Like it might have to be that things get so bad that it's the only thing with APY on the board at all. Like in a sea of red, it's green. It's the floor is lava for like, who knows, days, weeks, months, years. And then finally, I don't think it lasts years. Let me just.
Nah, not years.
And then finally people start to say like, I don't even give a fuck about how I feel about Richard or his this or his that, but I'm going to buy this because I have no choice. And so when it becomes I have no choice, that's when things will get interesting. That's what I'm waiting for. I don't give a fuck about what anything happens between now and then. I want to see when people have no choice but to buy it. What happens then?
Well, what's funny is that they're already there now. They just don't realize it.
Yeah, true.
Because I've been saying that for a long time. Now, look, I've been staring at capital markets for over a decade. There is nothing else out there. It literally does not matter what anybody thinks. That's just a fact. If you're out there investing in real estate, this and that, the only advantages you have are not having to spend any fiat to leverage existing assets. That's it. But in terms of gains, you got none. And that's a fact.
Yeah, the outlook is massively shifted in terms of how long are we now looking at out on returns. You know, that's completely changed.
When, let me say, what year is this? 2022. In 2016, 10-year forward, fuck that. Let's make it positive. In 2018, okay, 2018, 10-year future returns were 0. Now, this is based on a broad-based capital markets assumption model that pretty much all of Wall Street uses. So all of Wall Street fucking knows there are no returns out there. And this is going back to 2018. It's 2022. How much better do you think the outlook has improved given everything that's happened over the past 4 years? Well, let me tell you, it hasn't. In fact, it's negative now. So we were at 0 in terms of forward returns 4 to 5 years ago, and you best believe we're negative moving forward because you don't just blow up the economy and think you can get away with it. Now, to highlight Billionaire Foresight's comments, dude, my point is that when there is nowhere else to go, this is where everybody's going to go. And that's something that a lot of Hexicans just don't understand because they're looking at this like if it's a regular market, and it's not. And thanks for the super chat, Crypto.
What's up? Thank you.
Cryptogonal, hell of a name there.
Yeah, it's just the conditioning, dude. We're all still looking at this shit as if it's something that it's not, at least once a day. And it's like, oh, you gotta snap out of it. Like, fuck. No. It's this. This is the truth. Okay. Right. And then get back on track.
Yeah. The purpose of looking at this in dollar terms is because that's what we're used to. But what's true is that one hex is one hex is one hex. You know, it's the dollar conversion is just an exchange rate.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just what the other party is willing to be exchanged for, or the other item is willing to be exchanged for, because that's what the market places the value on that item. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to exchange that item for that other, or those two items, right? You wouldn't be able to swap them, basically.
And so what's interesting? Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I was going to say the market is placing the value on that. That's all I know.
Well, here's what's funny about it: is go back to 2017. Everyone, this is the narrative that it was one of many narratives that were trying to get pushed out. One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's right.
But who decided we were going to just run with denomination in the US dollar? It happened though. And if you look, like that's an actual like negative to any promise coin, especially promise coins. But a cryptocurrency like Hex is like assigning it a US dollar value, and that's a tough one to get your head around. I know. But like that is a negative to place on that asset. And what's starting to happen, and you guys we're all getting to see this now, is that an entire ecosystem is now being created around HEX, non-based. It's not based on US dollar, but based on HEX. So we will now be able to, yes. So now imagine a future where US dollar doesn't matter. Like that does not even come into the equation at all. And everything is based off of one HEX is one HEX. And it's its own ecosystem that operates, outside of the entire financial system. I like that. I like how that sounds.
Oh, it's coming, right? Because
and it requires no burning down of the old guard. Just to be clear.
Yeah, none. I mean, it's already happening. Yes. In a lot of ways, it's already happening. You already see protocols being built on top of Hex's protocol, and that's how Hex stays a reserve asset.
Yes, like holding your HEX while getting economic energy. While getting economic energy.
What?
Yeah,
I can't read.
That's the play.
No, 100%. Because what's happening? Well, you're saying, hey, let's take this thing here, transfer it over there, and make money in a clean fashion. I mean, think about it, bro. Everybody wants to talk about green this, green that, green this, green that, but are they really doing green anything? No. What happens when people realize proof of stake is really green? Because Pulse is launching, and Pulse is this, and Pulse is that, and Hex is all proof of stake, and everything we have over here is proof of stake. I mean, the successful team is decked out in proof of stake protocols.
Yeah.
Top to bottom.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy. It's going back to the point of like, usually when there's no yield to be had, and we've had years and years of this now, is the people, there's going to be, I guess what I'm saying is I wish there was more innovation now that we've gone so long without yield. And instead, you've got a select few people that are concocting the wildest, dumbest shit in order to clamp down more control and more power instead of innovation. And so like that is the next great frontier, is that innovation needs to rise again. Innovation usually comes from two different things, is we have no choice or competition. I can do it better. I'm so fed up with this solution that I can do better. And that's what's about to happen. We see, well, it's not about to, it's happening right now, is that it's like, wait a second, there's more of me than there are of you. So why are you telling me anything about anything? Shut the fuck up. And so that mentality is it's going to start violently. Unfortunately, it always does, but it's going to end with innovation. And that's the positive out of that. But it's like, we had that opportunity, guys, from years and years of no yield. The people that were the high income earners could have kept innovating. And some did. I'll give Bezos credit and I'll give Musk credit. They kept innovating. A lot of other people didn't. They thought, okay, I don't want to lose this. I don't want something to kind of spin and go the other direction and take this newfound power or whatever perceived thing away from me. So I'm going to now try and institute things to make sure that nobody can ever get to my level. It just never works, guys. It'll never last, and that'll never work.
Nah, thanks for the super chat, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate that. Singaporean dollar, $55, 55 Singaporean dollars and 55 Singaporean cent. Thank you, sir. But that's kind of why, you got to walk through all these scenarios in your head.
Yes.
Right? How do you go from A to B to C to D to E all the way out to Z and not fall into a pit hole? Because that is extremely difficult, right? And this is why we even go back to the very basic tenets of what a cryptocurrency even is. You got to know the very, very basic, like the definition of something, so that you can understand what it is, what it means, what is it supposed to do, what is it trying to do, is it in line with what it's supposed to do? And I mean, and if you sit there and look at Bitcoin, none of that is true. And this is how we know. Right.
Yeah. And so we tend to, on this show, what we like to do is, everything, think of topics as like rabbit holes, especially some of the stuff is deep, deep rabbit holes. Like you could easily just stop at any one of them and go as deep as you fucking wanted to. And so we tend to have a nice blend of like, we take this one, drill down, we take this one, drill down, but we're always trying to move across the horizontal timeline of topics and touch on everything that, matters with regard to, Hex and macro.
Right. I mean, when you sit here and you think about the big picture, like everything that's going on, all the positives and the negatives, right? you can really sit here and just look at the very basics, right, of what hex is, right, versus what the rest of the space is, versus what it's supposed to be and what it is, right? And this is again why we lean on definitions, cryptocurrency, no counterparty risk, earning yield, no counterparty risk, being able to send and transfer, buy and sell, no counterparty risk. That right there is a definition of a cryptocurrency. Now, Hex takes it a step further by defining immutable code, no admin keys, meaning that it's just locked in as a finished product because of its functionality, right? I don't think Pulsechain will be to that same degree locked in like that because of what it is, right? I mean, you got to think they got to leave some gaps in there to keep upgrading once that becomes necessary, right? Because again, this is an actual layer one that's probably gonna be just as good, if not better, than the rest of the layer ones that are out there, just because of the design intention, right? The other layer ones, they weren't really trying to do anything specific as far as improving the space and things like that. This layer one's designed to improve the entire cryptocurrency space, whether promised coin or not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important, right? Because what's happening right now is that the market is railing. Like if you look at let's see. I mean, people are just so complacent right now. I mean, look, Bitcoin
It's weird.
28,000. Yeah.
It's weird, man.
Bitcoin
And this is
28,000 and
I was just going to say, this is not when you take positions. You take positions when things
no.
are so obvious. A trade is screaming in your face, literally. And you're just like, you're starting to look around. This is the early indications of a trade. You're looking around and nobody else has seen it. And you're like, wait, am I wrong? Am I crazy? That's like early stages, right?
We have
And
not hit
then it
max
starts to
pain
get more
yet.
obvious. Yeah, then it starts to get more obvious on that trade. And then the window closes. But we
Mm,
are not in any of those right now. We are in sit on
no.
the sidelines and just chill for a sec.
Just sit down, take a breath,
With Promise Coin Space. Let me be clear. Promise
Yes.
Coin Space and equities. We're on the sidelines.
Now, why is that? And that's because Hex is decorrelated from the rest. And why is that? Because the majority of this liquidity pool sits in USDC, excuse me, not what is the other stuff, Ethereum and Bitcoin and all that other stuff that people like buying. Now, so far today, we've gone down to $1,907. The daily chart is we're looking at. This is an 8-day chart, by the way. 8 days per candle. Zero positive momentum on an 8-day basis. Some people to think about. 8 days now. Not one.
And it's gotta do something here.
But
right now.
8. They literally has to, yes.
At
And
this level.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to.
Yeah, I just don't know why. Like, why would it?
Right. What are the incentives for the market participants? What are they?
Yeah, to step in and buy right now. What are those?
Besides getting wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, buying here is proof of max pain. Right? Like you don't buy in the midst of uncertainty when there is nothing but uncertainty. Right? What you want to do is you want to be buying in the midst of certainty when people are being extremely irrational. And right now, people are being extremely complacent, not irrational. Irrationality was happening up here at 69, 70,000 or 4,000 on this chart, 5,000, right? Like this is when irrationality was happening in the crypto space. And what is this? 7 months later, nobody's really that irrational anymore.
Yeah, there's so again, it's like go back to basics. There's no edge. There's no technical edge. If you want to look at TA and technicals, there's no technical edge right now. Not really. And there's really no like macro or FA fundamental edge right now at all.
None. I mean, and to be, in my opinion, let me know yours because I'm curious. I think that last bullet point is really the kicker for me because from my experience and what I've learned from the masters of markets, if all three of those items don't line up, especially that last one, Mark is going to teach you some very harsh lessons that you chose to forget. Now, If a chart's going up, that stock or underlying, the narrative underlying that underlying better be positive if you intend that trend to continue. Now, that's something that it sounds so simply trite, like trivial, like duh. But when you're learning and you're thinking to yourself, well, the chart's just designed to go up, it's just pointing up. Well, there's going to come these periods in time, right? Because you're looking at it on a daily basis or something like that. If the chart looks like it's, say you use moving averages, like, oh yeah, it's on this moving average and it looks like it's, this is a heavy moving average, so it's support, but then price comes up and it just rolls over again and then boom. Well, why is it doing that? Because price does what the market wants it to do, not what you want it to do. And this is important to understand because this is how you avoid exposing yourself at inopportune times. You want to expose yourself when the market is just so severely just out of whack, right? Like it was back in March 2020. Hold on, pull that up. I mean, just look at this candle. Just look at that candle. I mean, the range on this candle alone is 24%. The range on the candle before that, probably 45%, 44. I mean, to get 2 days like that in a row, almost unheard of. So it's being able to study all of these, and like, you guys got to realize you want to be able to understand the scenario that's playing out in front of you, because TA doesn't guarantee you an outcome. It just shows you what was happening prior to, because the right edge of the chart is not there, right? When you're looking at a price chart, what's actually, all that really matters is this. Everything to the left of that is irrelevant. Because it's just like Jay said or Steve said earlier. Once you enter that position, it's 50-50. You don't actually know what's going to happen on the other side. You're locked in. You're locked in. You made that decision and that's it. You're locked in. So what that means is that you have to understand what you own, why you own it, why you're doing it, etc. Because what's the purpose of owning something if you're just going to take heat the whole time? Opportunity cost.
Stress the fuck out. Jesus.
I mean, never mind the stress. I mean, the opportunity cost. This is why there's a discount rate when you're valuing equities, for example. So a discount rate is something, and I've even done streams on this, how do you evaluate assets? You got to look at what the cost of capital is going to be, what risk you're adding on top to that cost of capital to give yourself a buffer. And that's really how you look at what that discount rate is supposed to be, right? And there's typically like a standard that you can kind of lean on and stuff like that. But it depends the industry and all these other factors. Like, it's too much to go into. But the point is, it's an interest rate. And that interest rate is used to define the value range of what you think the future value is going to be of something, right? And that's how you ascertain whether you have a good present value, as in, is Ethereum cheap at 1940 or is it expensive at 1940? Or are you getting a overvalued asset, right? Which is the latter. Is it worth more than, is it worth less than 1940? Meaning that it's at 1940, it's overpriced in the market, so you should just wait, right? And these are things that the fundamentals really give you. TA does not give you that at all, right? Because this is the thing. When we're looking at HEX on the chart, it looks phenomenal. When we're looking at HEX right now, it looks like crap. But if you're looking at all of my charts, it looks great because you're looking at what's happening under the blockchain, under the top layer, which is just USD. And the same thing is true for pretty much almost any crypto, assuming people want to amass it, right? Inventory. Go ahead, brother.
Real quick, I was just going to say, you're looking at a log chart. So what's funny about that is, just a quick little story, is I remember this was probably like 2018 I started getting into TA. And then there was like a big war through 2017, 2018 of log versus linear. And there was legit people dogging on log charts, and they had all this reasoning and all this like, definitions from Investopedia and blah, blah, blah about why linear charts are better.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy actually to listen to back then. And like as years have gone on, it's utterly hilarious that was even a narrative or argument that was put forth by a decent amount of the promise coin space at the time. Because yes, it's so laughable.
Attention to that. Wow.
Like what the fuck? You're smoking some shit, dude.
Bro. Yeah, I would have definitely blown a gasket. That's insane.
So I just want to say that, but yeah, I mean it's crazy.
Yeah, it's beyond crazy, bro. Now, look, I guess we kind of went down this path because we wanted to highlight just what interest rates were doing and how they're all out of whack and how that's basically going to cause the rest of the market some serious stress and pain because that's just how it works, unfortunately.
Yeah. And HEX, by the way, HEX looks great, but on a longer time frame I think right now is a great opportunity to buy, is what I'm saying. But on a longer time frame.
On a long time frame, right. Now, check this out, Jay. Remember this?
Yeah, I remember this.
T, bro. To the T. To the T. Nasty.
There it is. Mm-hmm. Rejecting that line that we just like scribbled on there.
Yep, but it's an important line. But it's an important line. And the reason it's important is because if euro dollars ever breach this 3.5 area, all hell breaks loose, sir. Because that is the level of importance for who? 10-year, 3%. 30-year, 3.5. So when you look at the 30-10s, where are you? I mean, this thing is just.
That chart is crying. That chart is literally crying. Those wicks are tears.
Oh, God,
those wicks are tears, bro.
Man, let's just get rid of them because it was too much.
What is that? Salvador Dali? It looks like a Salvador Dali.
Right.
Like I'm on some mushrooms or something. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Everything's smearing and smudging together.
Yeah. And I mean, this is bad because look, I've outlined every rip, every dip, right? That was tied to a recession or thereafter, before or thereafter. Oh man. And when you look at this range, right, what happens? Well, you kind of got a cut off here. Kind of like at that 1% mark where things kind of spiral out of control. You saw it in early 90s, saw it early 2000s, saw it again after 2009, 2010, 2011, 12. Now, what you notice is that this is happening after recessions, right? So what this tells you is that going into a recession, yields typically rip. And that's kind of what you see most of the time. From 06 to 09, rip. From 2000 to 03, rip. Late 80s to 92, rip. And these are all stressful points of economic history. You can look it up. Same thing here, rip, 2009, right? Now let's see here. It looks like it was a downward draft, but you guys knew what was happening here. So during this time, you had the Fed doing their quantitative easing, right, ad nauseum daily. So this was the main reason why yields just compressed like this. And you had this little gap here where yields had the stress period where they had to kind of raise rates kind of like now, but they never did. And then the same thing again happened here. And the thing is, we're basically going to run into the same scenario here again. But I think, and let me know what you think, Jay, is that it's going to be more like this time around. Like we're going to get a nasty rip, and it's going to lead to some pretty serious aftershocks. You're on mute, bro. Maybe you stepped away. No worries. But yeah, so when you're looking at this, this is a barometer, right? And things are very bad down here right now. What can you say when the cost is increasing across the board for both?
Sorry about that. I had to use the toilet.
You good, bro? You good? You good? But so what I was saying, I was just talking about the 30 to 10.
Yep.
And how right now the economy is extremely bad down here. And what I was saying before that is how everything that was positive happened, or the yield went, let me rephrase. Anytime the spread expanded, right, from 0 to 1%, or any measure of range, right, negative to 1% or whatever, just a positive rate of change, that happened after a recession, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at 2000, well, that happened after. If you look at 2006, it happened after. If you look at 2018, happened after. 2004, 15, happened after. So it seems like we're about to run into a period again where it happened after.
Yeah.
So taking that into account, you know, what typically happens in that scenario in markets? Well, what's happening is that the cost of acquiring assets has been reset, right? Because
Yep.
you're looking 30 years out versus 10 years. And that spread should reset itself to what you should consider a further riskier uh, time frame, which would be 30 years versus 10 years. So it should widen out, right? That's what makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a function of the economy trying to repair itself, is basically what I'm trying to explain, which is weird because you wouldn't think that the economy would hurt itself to fix itself, but that's what has to happen when manipulation is afoot. Yes? Yes. Because otherwise, how would the market go from there to here? Who would opt for that? Because what we have to realize is that market participants dictate typically price fluctuations, but why would market participants want to hurt themselves here? That's not reality, but that's what we end up seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important, right? Because this is how we catch the lies. This is how we catch the swindles. This is how we catch the manipulation.
Yeah, it can't be you come on TV and say one thing and then you're
And
looking at the
something
chart and
else
it's different.
happens. Yeah.
Like we all know that's called.
BS.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And this is
So
another
this
one of
is
those things I was just going to say is like
no,
in the
no,
beginning, we talked about it. Like some of these indicators are like telling you years in advance. Some are like daily, some are, monthly, weekly, etc. But there's one for just about any time horizon you want to look at that you can find some sort of indicator to tell you what the future currently looks like.
yeah, it's really not. And this is the thing. This is just one of the ways I look at markets. There's multiple ways to look at markets, but I ensure that I'm looking at it through an interest rate bent, because interest rates are the movers for markets. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Capital flow is determined by the cost of capital. Is it not?
Pretty straightforward.
It is.
pretty basic.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised some of the things I've heard from folks. But
Yeah.
yeah. So let's talk about gold for a little bit, because I just recently wrote something about how crypto is better than gold, and tell you what, it's one of those periods in time where gold should be shining, and it's just not.
Yeah. So is this a precursor to what's about to happen with Bitcoin? It just seems to be like all the the pieces are lined up there that, oh, we're about to do ETFs. This sounds familiar. This sounds like gold. Gold should be behaving very positively right now, price wise, and it's not. Bitcoin is supposed to be a store of value, like mega storage of value, better than gold, but it's not performing. Why? Because they're not.
Not at all. Not at all. And why is that? That's a function of the structure of this market, the gold market specifically. Because what's happened is that they've taken the asset and papered it over and over and over and over. I mean, as many times as you can mention, like you really have to, pave over the concrete umpteen million times, right, before you can stop a weed from growing. Because what happens is that they still go through the weeds, no? They still grow through the concrete.
Yeah.
Weed still grows with concrete, right? So their objective here is to ensure that the weed cannot keep growing past this point. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise that we're kind of right there. We're not that far off, right? I mean, a couple $100 ain't much on a long-term time frame. So, but these are the kinds of things you got to kind of keep in mind as a market participant. Because, yeah, it's cool to be diversified, but do you really want to expose yourself to something that is manipulated by others? I think not.
Like so heavily
Right.
too. Like let's think back to and during the event over the last couple of years, is there was many points in time where spot was way more money than what you were seeing on the chart. People were paying it. But
That's right.
like, so they're really down. Like they're down bad right now, like way worse than everybody else. But I mean, what are we at? We're at the same level that we were at in the 80s. So you're down over 40 years. Like, how is that a store of value, dude? It's kind of like just this rocket at this point that gets passed on is like what we think would be like mega huge disaster, like everything goes away, apocalyptic shit. Then that's where gold finally gets its usage. But I mean, if we keep pushing that goalpost further and further back, it's just going to get more ridiculous. And who's going to carry all that shit when in their go bag? When if that were to occur, like where does gold fit into that in your bag? After you like knock down 3 walls to get to it in your fucking safe in your house, or go to the top secret location in fucking Switzerland that you've got it stored at. Like, how does that work? Like who's going to carry all that weight physically? So I mean, like all those questions are just like not really baked into the conversation either. I know that those are hard questions too, but yeah, it's just weird that asset that is supposed to be the absolute store of value is at similar levels to what it was 40 years ago. So that's why, no, the gold, going back to the gold back standard that some of these other guys talk about, I'm not buying it. I don't like that idea. I think it's stupid.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Stupid. This is not going to happen. And somebody mentions cup and handle, and I'm going to show you no cup and handle here.
No super.
And the reason why is because momentum said no. We're talking about just made a top, and RSI couldn't even get above the 0 line on a 13-day basis. 13 days per candle, meaning it had 2 whole weeks to get up, and it could not.
That's a serious erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, and it failed to the tune of giving us a little red candle here on the MACD. Now, if we look at the RSI, straight decreasing momentum, and again, we hit the mid band and haven't really been able to breach above it since this point in time, and we definitely haven't had any sustained moves above it. So, doesn't really paint a positive picture, and it's definitely not highlighting a positive price structure. So I would wait to see an actual breakout of the cup and handle before I would bank on that, because it looks like it, but not really. And that's go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, that's how you would play that pattern. Like from a technical standpoint, you would get in and enter on the retest of the neckline. Yeah, essentially. So you would just come back in at that point. Or you would open your position at that point when it comes back down for the retest.
Yep. That's a smart move. Because then the market is it's traversing higher prices. So you have exchange happening at those higher levels that you want to see. And 2, you're not overexposing yourself to price risk by buying higher than you should.
Yeah. So. And that's like, that in and of itself is such a huge lesson for somebody that's looking to take on a trade, is that the first question you'll say is, that doesn't make sense. Why would I want to buy it higher? Why wouldn't I just buy it now? Right. We need confirmation, especially with assets like this. Like, you can really get a lot of intel out of RSI and MACD and basic patterns. They tend to play really well on those patterns. But yeah, you always wait for confirmation, because that's how this works. When we measure our risk to reward, that's why we do that. And it sounds so basic, right? But again, like, there's a lot of people who fundamentally don't understand that. Like, I'll be slick, I'll be clever, and I'll buy right now. Don't do it. Please stop it.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing about it is like you're not buying at a point in time when there is an edge, and it's like we discussed earlier. There's no negative sentiment. There's nothing positive in terms of outlook for gold because what's happening is that it's being manipulated. So while we know all the fundamentals of gold, all the positive attributes, we know everything about gold, but yet here it sits, $1,813. Now, in that little article I wrote, I put a chart of hex versus gold. So let's take a look at that because it was pretty interesting.
Oh, I like that. Let's do it.
Yeah,
By the way, one of your best edge, I think, right now for gold would be to become best friends with like prop desk traders at big firms like JP Morgan and see what the fuck they're talking about with gold and silver. That'd be your edge, literally. There's not much. Or go get a job there. Fuck. There you go. You want to be on the inside, go be a janitor or something and just hang out by those guys' desks all day.
Yeah, that'd actually be ideal, mainly because they're not going to give a crap that you're there and they're going to say everything.
Yes.
That's what you want.
That would actually be hella edge right now, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Imagine.
There you go, man. Go undercover. Get a job.
Nah, I'm good. I'm trying to leave that side, but it's a nice idea if you got the time.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So, interesting. All right. So what we're looking at right now is a cross of hex versus, or a ratio of hex versus gold. So as you guys can see, gold has strictly outperformed. Hex has strictly outperformed gold since inception. Now, hex is looking weaker than gold at the moment, but that's okay because gold doesn't pay a yield. Gold cannot be transported cross time zones, cross the ocean without being noticed.
Confiscated, most likely.
Yeah, gold can be confiscated. This cannot. So, I mean, we could keep going down the laundry list of positives because there are many. The cons are unique to you and how you view them. That's the interesting thing about cryptocurrency. The barrier to entry is you, and your ability to pick them lies in your ability to understand definitions, lies in your ability to not have the wool pulled over your eye, and also lies in the ability for you to be able to ascertain value, right? Because we can say, hey, there's value here a million times, but if others don't see it, there's no value there. Pretty simple. And that's what makes hex so specifically unique. Where are you getting a unit of yield anywhere at these days? I mean, it's almost non-existent.
Yeah, it's fucking dry well out there right now. Dry well.
And that's putting it nicely, really.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you're talking about savings accounts with less than 1% yield. I mean, imagine talking about this 20 years ago. Nobody would believe it. They think you're crazy. They would legit think you're crazy. So, these are the kinds of things you got to keep in mind. Like, the market is reeling right now. Inflation is high. It's noticing that inflation is high. It's not that it's new. It's noticing that inflation is high. That's really the only difference. But this is what happens when you print. Like, there's going to be some turbulence in the foreseeable future. And this is why taking advantage of this turbulence now is the key. Because if Hex, an actual cryptocurrency, can obliterate gold to the tune of, I don't know, 6,500 plus X, you might want to think about it. Just a thought.
Yeah, and so take that a step further is like, who is it? Warren Buffett says, when there's blood in the streets, that's when you buy. I mean, with the amount of data that we've got right now and our options for everyday person, I mean, like Hex is like I think it's like the only thing I'd really be focused on. I wouldn't say one of the, I'd say it's the only thing. Like, given the amount of data that you've got right now, like, what else and why would you want to get involved in those things right now?
Yeah, that and anything tied to Hex, like Maxi or Hedron. Because they're extremely I mean, not Hedron, but not maxi, but Hedron is definitely undervalued. I haven't figured out by how much yet, but once I do, I'm gonna let y'all know because the math there just definitely isn't adding up. So I'm just trying to find an angle to it.
Yeah. So anything involved around that ecosystem right now is like the only
positive. Yeah, it's a major positive because it's all mathematically defined. It's math backed. It's not opinion backed. It doesn't depend on who does what. Nobody has to wipe your butt in order to make a dollar or a cent here. And people really dismiss the importance of that, right? Because there is no need to expect anything from the work of others here. I mean, that's critical. That's number one. No expectation from the work of others. So what that leads to is just a basic realization that you have to understand what it is that you're buying into, and this is what sets Hex apart from the rest of the market. How do you? I mean, look at all the things that are being built on top of Hex, right? You got accredited investor products being built on top of it. You got other protocol products being built on top of it. You got a loan and credit line product being built on top of it for crypto. I mean, this is all being built on Hex because it's that good. Because the bare basic tenets of what the system is and what it's meant to do fit the bill of what investing is about.
Yeah, I mean, a savings vehicle, that's what it is.
Yeah, very straightforward.
So it's easy to build on top of something like that, just like they build on top of savings accounts and they build on top of CDs and high yield
vehicles and all that stuff, right?
Same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Those things exist because there's an ability to extract value from those situations or from those calculations, right? And that's where you get all the rest of this cool stuff from. The Hex Investment Trust that's being built, Maxi and Hedron and whatever else comes after that. I mean, those things, they're defined by the code of Hex. Without that, they cannot really be, right? And this is important to understand because that's where the value lies in understanding what you own, right? I mean, the people that are investing in the Hex Investment Trust, they don't probably realize that that could easily be just as good of a trade as being in the crypto itself, only at this point in time. Because after it launches, it's not going to be as good of a deal as it is as going to be buying the crypto, because the math isn't going to allow it to be the case. I mean, just like you see it with Hex now and Maxi, it's going to be the same thing with that trust. Because
when it goes public, you're saying?
Yeah, because that math is going to be embedded in the price. It has to be.
Yeah.
That's how it's designed. So, you got to realize where the value lies. Is it in the balance sheet? Is it in the price action? Is it is it in the variability of the price action? What is it that you value, right? And I think most people, they value just making money.
Yeah.
And it kind of does that every day for you, right? I don't know.
I just want to make one comment about the trust and Maxi and things like that. If there's voices in a community that you don't like, given recent events, there seems to be some noise around a couple particular people, that is your way to vote with your dollars, is it not? I could have gotten involved in Maxi, which is technically one of the largest stakeholders. So, and we know that that's not going to dump on anybody. So that is my way to vote, to say, hey, this whale is really fucking annoying. Let me go become my own whale. The Hex Investment Trust is another way to speak with your dollars, because you're saying, I'm gonna put up money towards this whale that will become an OA at some point, and they're not selling. So I don't have to worry about their opinions or their stupid fucking social media posts. That's like that doesn't even come into the equation. So I can vote with my dollar that way.
Yeah.
That's a simple ways to do it.
Yep. Very simple.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about the trust. I mean, you got the trust, you got Maxi, they're kind of one and the same, and then you got Hex, which is kind of the base layer, right? And then the trust, what is the trust there to do? It's there to act really as an OA type entity, just like Maxi just did. Like, everybody saw what Maxi did, and it's going to be the same thing for the trust, where they just step in Well, for the trust, it's going to be different because there's no minting here. We're going to literally be executing in the market. But, that's a function of demand, right? Just like people want to buy crypto, they will also want to buy, they also want access to crypto without having to deal with, to jump into the coins and get into the keys and all that stuff, right? That stuff is complicated for the average person. But once they go through it and all, and they take the time, clearly it's not hard. It's just like whatever for the rest of us. But it's getting them to that point. That's what's difficult because they don't understand, and this is why talking about inflation and the cost of goods and stuff like that, it's important because that's what brings the light, to to the things that are happening. It's who's paying attention to what, since when, and all that nonsense. I mean, you kind of just gotta look at the bare bones of a situation sometimes and just keep it for what it is.
Speaking of that, you said you wanted to bring back up Celsius. This would be a great thing to jump into that because we're talking about not your keys, not your coins, and how hard that can be. Which, look, I think he brings up a valid point in terms of like it's difficult, but why wouldn't we focus on education, make that easier versus just telling people don't do it, just come to Celsius? That's fucking retarded.
Pretty much.
Like, come on, dude.
Pretty much. I mean, think about it. And we talk about this all the time. What was the problem with Celsius? Well, number one, it wasn't without counterparty risk, meaning there was an intermediary involved. And that is the biggest poo-poo you can make. Because what does that do? Well, you're giving the regulators entryway into the situation. And that's exactly what happened. Every time that some protocol thinks that they could have some intermediary step where they can try to skim some money off the top of something else to give it to somebody somewhere else, well, what happens every time that's the story? Remember BitConnect?
Yep. I remember that well. And that's all it is like Celsius is a skim. It's a skim off the top. And then then it's like, again, like we've covered quite a few like wild narratives and just how everything connects on these different ways throughout this stream, and I think we do most streams. But that's important to remember too. Is like, just think of that for a second. They come out and they are a middleman, but they've convinced you that they're not.
Yeah,
that's some prime grade propaganda right there. Prime.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, the fall for it is kind of crazy. And if you're not financially savvy, of course, that's normal. It's okay that happens. But this is why we have these streams, to educate people in the right fashion so they can understand that that's a circular, well, not really a circular loop, right? Because Hex is circular. That's why Hex works. There's no intermediaries. Celsius, there was third parties involved, meaning it wasn't circular, meaning they had to go outside of their own network, their own system to try to generate this yield. And that's where the danger lies, because that is when you are now in the realm of expecting profits from the work of who? Others. And that, folks, constitutes a security, mainly more than anything else, right? Because when you're saying, hey, there's a profit incentive, profit motive outright, that's entirely different than saying, here's some stock or here's some ICO.
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
Absolutely. I'll say this, in a personal finance space, there's like, okay, just look at, here's a good indicator of how much knowledge they have, for better or worse, is look at most people's description box in personal finance, like the biggest YouTube channels, they all have a Blockfolio and a Celsius affiliate link.
Oh my God.
There's your answer. That's how much they know.
Wow. Pretty crazy. I don't even know. I don't even know what Blockfolio is. I see people talk about it all the time.
It's like Celsius. It's the same shit.
Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't even know that. There you go. Well, people are going to learn their lessons the hard way if they don't want to, just look at a definition of a word or of something. Like, I don't even know, man.
I don't even know where I just
it's weird.
That the knowledge gap there is pretty big. It's got to be pretty big.
It's huge.
And, I don't know where to start with that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because like I've said before, like when I came back into the space after taking a 2-3 year break or whatever it was, You know, I thought it was going to be a bunch of people like me still, and it just wasn't. And I didn't even realize that that I had changed before I even left the space. I didn't realize that
Yeah.
had already happened before I left, because I wasn't really involved in, you know, social aspect of cryptocurrency like I am now then. So I really had no idea. And that is what separates, you know, certain generations of crypto people. Like the first crypto people definitely had zero understanding of markets, but they had all the understanding of what crypto is and what it was for and what it was meant to be and blah blah blah. Then you had the second wave. And that second wave were the people that were buying Bitcoin, you know, $10 and up, $100 and up. And they were probably more financially savvy, maybe more sovereignty savvy. But somewhere along the way, those folks got lost. I don't know what happened to them, but they're nowhere to be found. Um, and I was kind of already stepping out of the space, kind of at that point, because of all the narratives that were getting tossed around. And, you know, if you don't understand, you don't really know. So I kind of had my foot in and out a little bit at that time, even though I was still paying attention. But everything was so new that it's like, well, what the hell is going on, right? So you just keep looking and you keep learning, and that's kind of the thing that you have to realize, right? Like you got to realize that some things are not just meant to be laid in front of you. You got to just keep on pushing and keep on searching. Now, look, we got about 10 minutes left. So if you guys want to get some questions in, now is the time. Start dropping them in the chat. We've gone over how crazy the inflation situation is right now. We've gone over the basics of cryptocurrency, which is pretty important because this is how you're able to assess a cryptocurrency, right? You got to understand the bare minimum basics in order to really be able to grasp anything more complicated than that, which is something like Hex. And, you know, we've gone over a lot of good topics that are really relevant to how you should be thinking about the markets right now. The flow of capital, the cost of capital. I mean, all of these things, while maybe brand new to some of you, are very important. So you should really take some time to think about them, mull them over. Um, you know, just try to really take them in and understand the concepts that we're trying to share here, because they're really, really relevant to your well-being, your future, and what it could look like. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I agree. A lot of this stuff, there's the deep structure to everything. I say that all the time. And a lot of times that's what we're trying to give you guys is like a way in, an angle in to see the underlying structure. And so everything is really just an example, a top layer example of what the underlying thing is that we're trying to remind you of, or obviously the people that are brand new to this, help you understand. And that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, it's about repeatedly going over these quasi convoluted concepts, because the system is designed to be that way, because it is not meant for you to find success. It is meant for you to be misled. And this is why we try to preach about something as simple as definitions on these channels, because it's about the simplicity of the significance of the information that's being shared. That's what's the most important. So,
Yeah.
hope you guys enjoyed the stream, man. I mean, Jay, you got much more else, bro? Don't be shy. I'm kind of good though.
No, I'm kind of tapped out. Any questions before we go?
Yeah, I said to throw them in there. This is the only one we've gotten so far. The food industry, well, hopefully soon, man, because I like me some good food. I don't think anybody doesn't like good food. So,
well, okay, I'll say this. This has been kind of something in the back of my mind for years now. Is, you know, I've done all kinds of weird experiments at different points in my life. Like at one point, I tried not to sleep, but just use sensory deprivation tanks a couple times a week to try and get REM, because I thought REM was the only important part of sleep. At various points, I tried to have a mostly like liquid diet to get my vitamins, minerals, nutrients, etc. Tried to lean on herbs with like minimal amount of chewing food. I will say that I think there's a huge upside and potential with like figuring out a base layer of system of vitamins, minerals that you could either orally take or inject or something on a daily basis to give you your baseline, which would require a lot less food. And it's not as weird as eat bugs. So I think there's going to be two narratives that rise in the future, which is going to be a more scientific approach, which is that, hey, yes, as we get, bigger and bigger, then food does become a problem. And so we can either handle this with some sort of scientific approach by trying to figure out the science side of it. And what we need is like baselines per day. And then there's going to be all the weird shit that you see that's being pushed right now. So it's just early in that market. And that's why it's like, oh yeah, solution, stop eating meat and eat bugs. It's like, no, thank you. Fuck you. But yeah, I'd say like that area, I'm pretty excited about. Like I hope that we do break into that market at some point. Truly.
Yeah, it's gonna
because it's ripe for disruption. It is ripe for disruption.
100%.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Somebody just has to figure out one trick and it changes everything.
Yes, exactly. Or we need to understand like DNA sequencing better to understand like what's required and needed. Like something will happen and it'll be like boom, floodgates will open.
Yeah, it'll be a good point in time too. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you for the super chat, Nardo, man. I hope you're doing well, brother. Long time no speak, man. Hope to catch up with you soon. But shout out to all the Hexicans, man. All the Hexicans that are out there doing beautiful things. You guys know who you are. Let's see, we got another question here. PHEX EX, what's your thoughts on parity or max exodus from the east side? I don't know about this whole max exodus business. But people decide to sell their hex on the Ethereum side. Hey man, good luck to you, because somebody's gonna sure as hell step in and buy that bad boy.
Yeah,
and I'll be one of those. So not sure why anybody would do that. That's literally dumb as hell. But hey, what do I know?
Unless you had like no choice, like a stake or something ended.
Well, I mean, what the hell's the bridge for? I don't know. Unless you're just exiting your position, I don't understand what this whole max exodus business is.
I think it's because there's going to be a ton of people who don't know how to use the bridge, like there is now. Like on Poly, on BSC, there's a ton of people who actually don't know how to bridge back and forth. Believe it or not.
Well,
so they will not know that they even have that option.
Well, okay then. Well. Hey man, that's the plight of being ignorant by choice, and I cannot be sympathetic to folks of that caliber.
It feels hard. It feels hard to a lot of people, which is why they don't do it.
Yeah. Oh well. Interesting question here. What are your thoughts on how? Well, look, I don't know if you've been paying attention, bro, but they already lost, so they don't actually matter anymore. And that'll come to light, I guess, within the next couple of months more clearly.
I also don't think like that would be their primary focus. Like, you really think that just like tomorrow, out of everything else that they're trying to accomplish and the spin that they're attempting, that they're just gonna like target this guy and go like swoop him up and send a Black Ops team to pick him up? Like that's like this fan fiction kind of weird shit that our brain gets into. That I think we could probably put our brain resources somewhere else to think about. It is something to think about, but I put it very, 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 very low at this point in time. That might change in the future. At this point in time, right. But right now, very low. I like that whole thought process of like, what's the play? Swoop him up, make him disappear. He took himself out. Like, why? Out of all the other people right now, really? Like, that's a top priority? I don't think so.
Yeah, they got other people that they need to worry about that are much more harmful to their strategies and their plans than RH. Luckily for us. And here's the funny thing: even if something did happen to them, it just wouldn't matter.
Because the protocol is still going to run. Like, it would suck, and there would be a negative price action around that event, 100%. Right. That being said, a new day, and it would still be there, and then another day, and it'd still be there. So.
Right. So let's see. Question from homie Thoughts. I hear our community is 50-50 on Musk. You guys got a call. I believe he's an agent, but value other insights. Yeah, he's a tough one because he seems like a sleeper. I wasn't a fan forever, but as of now, man, he's really exposing these loser commies. So, the enemy of my enemy is my friend until further notice. That's how I play. I live by Sun Tzu, Art of War rules, because I don't like to lose. So that's my answer.
I would agree. And I say for now, it is very entertaining and it's great to watch. So keep doing it. 100%. Outside of that, like there's all kinds of red flags with the Twitter takeover and his connections to China. But For now, I mean, I would just say
fun to
that
watch.
it's fun to watch. Yeah.
For the show. And I
Yeah.
mean, and this is real life. This is what's so hard about real life, right? It's like, how do we sit here and paint this picture that doesn't exist? Because we do it all the time as human beings. You know, humans are the best at painting pictures that do not exist.
Oh, actually, booming actually had something that was completely unrelated. My bad. I don't know why my brain went there. I guess that's just kind of where I thought you went with it. Booming gems. You're talking about regulation. Maybe let's cover that. Well, it doesn't fail the Howey test at all. Not even one of the 3 or 4 on the Howey test. So no, it completely irrelevant. Now they might try and bend it, but there would probably already be precedents set legally that would prove that it's not. And then you could easily, from a legal standpoint, somebody, I doubt it would be RH, I think it would be somebody in the community, would open a lawsuit and defend that position and use other coins and other promise coins to prove that point, which would then get the case dismissed. So like even legally, I don't think they would have any opportunity to do anything there.
Yeah,
they might try, but they wouldn't win.
There really isn't. Okay, so they wouldn't even try because they would just lose. Like, there's just no justification for any element of the Howey test to fail with regards to HEX. It just isn't. So, it's just one of those things that's hard for people to wrap their head around. But it's true story. Look it up. That's how it works.
Is that more in line with what you're asking? I hope that.
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see here. New York City is the same as always, brother. Crazy. I mean, I had to close the windows, so I hope that answers your question. The same as always. The same as always. If they ban blockchain, that's not possible, bro. So we're just gonna move on.
Yeah, it'd be impossible. They wouldn't even be able to roll out their CBDCs if that was true. So
yeah,
they couldn't do that.
It's not possible. It's not gonna work like that. Like, you gotta listen to Richard Hart more. He's made it clear that it's gonna pretty much be parity. I mean, I'm confident that the whole goal of the fixer bot is that, because everything else is whatever. So, something that you guys might not realize, because you're new, or maybe you forgot. Everything that's happening, Pulsechain, PulseX, it's for HEX. It's not for anything else. Everybody else is gonna get the benefit. So y'all can all say thank you to RH, but this is really just for HEX. So, y'all welcome, I guess, too, partially. So let's see. What up, Marco? What up, Greg? Let's see. So trade all my future PulseX and Pulse for HEX, right? At the beginning? Sure. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
I would just say this. Here's my plan.
Pocket.
I don't want to sell any Pulse or PulseX. I'm going to figure out ways to keep that and make yield off of it without yield farming. So I'm going to look at other mechanisms, because I don't like yield farming. Personally, I think it's stupid. Like, the impermanent loss is just too high. So.
The way I view that, I view it as market making, right? And what that means is, if you're going to elect to provide liquidity, then you should have a specific portion of your portfolio that's dedicated specifically to that, such that you don't have to concern yourself with impermanent loss, because then you're just living off the yield from that slice, or using that yield off that slice, whatever you want to call it. That's the way I view it. Maybe I'll do a stream on it or something. I don't really care, but whatever. People like to hear about that stuff, so maybe I'll do it. Shout out to you, Ash. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, I think we already covered that, bro.
Yeah, that was going up a little bit further. You said that. Yeah. I think.
You pledge maxi, no, you don't pledge maxi. And in fact, you can't do anything anymore. You have to buy it in the open market, because minting phase is over. And how it worked is that you gave up 1 HEX for 1 maxi, and then they staked all the HEX that you gave for the 1 maxi. That was it. Let's see. You got to go to the website, brother, because you just asking a question that ain't even a question. You can go to the website and get your answer. You give 1 HEX, you get the HEX the amount of hex back that the yield generates over time, and that's assuming you even wait that long. So that's pretty much that. Thank you for the super chat, Crypto Wash. Appreciate you, brother. Let's see. Oh, God damn, these freaking messages just got lit up after I said if we got anybody got questions. Hold on. Let's see. Kind of would be nice. Oh, you guys gotta invite me, man. I don't just invite myself on other people's streams, bro. You gotta let me know. What the hell? You're welcome, man. You're welcome. But yeah, just ask, man. Anybody wants me in the stream, you gotta just ask. I don't know. You want me in the stream? I'll be busy. You know, I don't. I barely stream on my own channel. I be streaming on other people's channels more. So you guys just let me know. Yep. Exactly. And you know, this is kind of the beautiful thing about understanding the game that you're playing. You know, as a Hexican, you have this ridiculous privilege that you don't even realize you have. And the reason you don't realize you have it is because you're so used and accustomed to the trash that exists out in this space that you think this is the similar quality. But it's not. Because while the rest of the space is out there getting freaking rinsed right now, a lot of people that were new 6 months ago, 12 months ago, they found Hex through our streaming, through our posting online, through our doing whatever we're doing. And this is why Hex continues to grow, right? It's by our activity as individuals being excited about this protocol. People don't care about some commercial. People care about what you have to say. I've never once in my life watched an ad and been like, oh man, I'm going to go do that or get that. Or like, I don't get it. I don't get advertising at all. It adds no edge in my, like, it doesn't work on me. So to me, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. For others, it does though. And this is why we always have this call to action for people to just stream, right? Because we put up the information out there, everybody hears it, community grows because they find the right people that matches to them.
100%.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was really weird. It came in like later in the day after like the breaking news of him wanting to buy Twitter. But where it's at now is he's trying to get them to prove how much is bots and how much isn't. And some of the estimations are conservative that 20% of Twitter's bots. On the high side, it's that 60% is bots.
I would wager that it's probably 70% or more.
I would agree.
Why? Because the narratives that are driven on in the social media space are never the narratives that people actually care about. Never.
Yeah.
So that means that statistically speaking, which is how all of this stuff works, all of this stuff is probability sets, right? Because this is all math. All this shit is math. So how is something picked to be trending? Well, they're either going to flag the term or it has to be greater proportion out of a relative set. That's just how it works. There's no two ways about it. Because how else is a protocol or some code set going to pick something? I mean, you got to think about it. It's very straightforward. And yes, Jay is on Twitter, at Crypto Junkies, CO at the end. So that's Crypto Junkies and then CO at the end. All one word. No underscore, no nothing.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that being said, is you've seen true trending topics on Twitter, and then you've seen dog shit, and
That's
it's
right.
90% fabricated dog shit. And then every once in a while, like a good example of this, everything around the AMC trade, that was all real. That was all real trending shit, right? Everything around the election and the outcome, that was real because you saw like people's frustration and the clear issues that occurred there, right? Like those types of situations you see, but like maybe like famous people trending today, you know, all this positive shit about the, you know, the current administration and stuff. It's like, I doubt it, bro. I doubt it. It's estimated that half of Biden's followers are fake.
I'll 60%. Not half, 60%. But, and this is what I'm saying. So if this dude's follows are fake by 60%, then odds are that like 70 to 80% of the people on there are bots. I mean, some of the replies, the handles, I mean, it's all of it is just like, who picks a name than a bunch of numbers?
And a lot of it, they look the same. Same activity, same kind of
structure.
Like, yep. So there's patterns there to look at too.
Yeah, and it's funny because somebody asked me earlier today, because it was something about, how do they determine, you know, what's a bot and what's not? How do you determine a Twitter handle is a bot and is not? It's very simple. You look at the activity that they engage in conjunction with when they engage it. Now, why? Well, a bot is always going to be triggered.
It's too fast.
It's going to be triggered. Not even in terms of just speed, just repetition. What it addresses in terms of information. What narrative is it trying to push? You got to think it's trying to nudge the numbers in a specific direction, so it's going to be triggered to work on ABC 1, 2, 3 event. And that's basically how I view it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Makes sense? Yeah, so let's see what else we got here. What's up, Blake? Hope you're doing well, bro. Funny guy. Nah, it's not going to be the same. Because the staking activity is going to be different. It's going to start out the same, but it's not going to finish the same, or continue to be the same, or it's not going to evolve at the same rate. That's the proper terminology. And the reason for that is because the staking activity is going to be distinct on one chain versus the other. That's why. Let's see. They don't do anything about it, brother, because they don't know. So the question is, how are bankers feeling about HEX? What will they try to do? Number one, they don't know about it. Number two, by the time they figure it out, they won't be able to do anything. And that's my plan here. So, you know, keep it to yourself. Thanks. Yeah, I know, right? We were supposed to get off like 20 minutes ago. I don't know why. Yeah, word of mouth is definitely the best. That's what I wish the community would want, but the community doesn't want that. They want it now. So, you know, all this other stuff happens instead.
The Flash.
Man, it's all good, you know.
Yeah.
It'll happen either way. It's just
combination of both is probably the best way forward, as usual. Yeah.
For real. And 6079, you're not the only one, I'm sure. All right.
Well, that's my indicators. It's just like they're saying shit that nobody on this fucking planet thinks.
Correct.
So there's no way they're real.
Like when you gotta push a narrative that hard.
Yeah. It's like, come on, dude. Like there's nobody that fucking believes this.
Nobody. In my opinion, Twitter looks like they're tripping into showing they have been defrauding investors. This is a nice chess game that Musk is playing. And that is accurate. Now, what is the goal surrounding everything that's kind of happening right now? Because what's interesting is like certain players are being tipped into certain scenarios, right? And when you look at it like that, what you come to realize is that, hey, we know Musk has his own agenda. We know he's about Musk. He's not about anything else. So what is he doing? He's trying to see if he can find a portal to allow him to give him access to human thought. Anywhere, anytime. That's Twitter. However, if it's not really Twitter, then that means that there's a bunch of bots, a bunch of this, a bunch of that, a bunch of fake stuff. And that is what's going to come to light. Now, is he trying to expose that? I don't know. However, the fact of the matter is it's going to be exposed because that's how due diligence works. Everything is sniffed. Everything is flipped upside down. Everything is looked into. There is nothing that is not uncovered. And that's important for people to understand when you see these companies get into bed with each other. Because if something does happen, that means somebody did not do their job. Because due diligence is literally everything in any deal, joint venture, whatever have you, because the values that are being placed on these deals are predicated on this due diligence process. It doesn't come out of thin air. It doesn't come out of any other deals that are happening in the space either. Literally comes off of what's going on in this specific nexus. Now, the multiples and how you do the math might be similar, but that's kind of where it ends. The uniqueness of the deal is always going to be representative of the value of the deal. And this is why a Twitter can be worth X billion with X percent of users versus minus Y billion, right? Minus X, Y percent of users. And this is kind of what the balance is right now. So
yeah, I think either way, Twitter's kind of trapped because they either have to break the deal now, which would get them in trouble with the board, or they have to deliver some sort of report that tells and is convincible that it's real about the amount of bot accounts. So either way, they're pretty much fucked.
Yep, 100% fucked. There's nothing they can do. They're
I love it.
There's no way about it. I mean, and it's funny because now I'm not gonna sit here and claim to be no legal expert, but when you've been around the corporate world long enough and you've been in stocks and stuff long enough, but you know how these games go. And this is obvious from the start. And I'm just sitting back laughing because it's obvious.
Yeah, it's definitely enjoyed the show.
Yeah. Everything they've been doing has been all out socialist stuff, commie stuff. I mean, that's all that they do. Well, interestingly enough, Johnny, you got to remember what did CZ just buy into? Forbes.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what we're gonna have to do? Buy more than just Forbes. So, because
yeah, he's on a serious PR tear lately.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I saw the day that he was like giving money away or something. I don't know to who, but we know he took it from somebody on Binance, so it don't really matter who he's giving it to. So, yep, machine learning. Yep. Let's see, we got a question here in reference to liquidity. I'm guessing you mean liquidity. Can you do a stream on how to exit through providing liquidity versus dumping on people's heads? Yeah, sure. Probably do that. I mean, all you're doing is so there's a couple ways. You can either do a limit order, or you can literally provide liquidity and then choose the pair that you want to provide liquidity on. But the catch here is that you would kind of have to time it. Because when you provide liquidity, you're providing inventory to the market, and the market's going to do whatever it wants with that inventory. You don't really get to choose. And this is why you have to understand that in this instance, to provide liquidity, to exit a position, you need to be able to time the turn that you're expecting or whatever it is. You just need to be able to time it because you cannot escape that in this aspect, unfortunately. So
yeah, and the limit orders just make them small. Obviously, if you're looking at exiting with 50 mil plus hex, then you'd obviously make those layer in those limit orders at smaller amounts.
I mean, yeah, definitely. You don't want to put a big bullet out there. It's like, yeah, here's a few million, hit me. Like the market's gonna savage you, and if it doesn't, well, be happy that it hasn't yet, but eventually it will, because that's just how it works. Do we think there will be a hex pump for Pulsechain snapshot for the fork? It's not a snapshot; it's a fork. So I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I just don't think you're gonna have that much time. It's not like he's gonna give you a 2-week window, because he's doing that now. So I just think it's gonna be like, oh hey, like in 2 days. So will it pump in 2 days? I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wouldn't wait. And I would definitely, the only thing I would wait for would be dips. And as you guys can see, I mean, they come and they go. They don't really stick around. Wow, look, there's been some serious buying already. That's nice. Crazy. Nice. Yeah. But this again, I mean, you guys got to realize Hex goes sideways, 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 and it just rips forever and ever and ever. I mean, what you're not seeing on this chart is that before this, it went sideways for 200 plus days too. So don't wait, because Hex doesn't care. It does not care. Period. So let's see. Yep. The lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. That is a fact. Took me a while to figure that one out. Let's see. Let's see. Come on, chat. Stop freaking skipping. All right. I think we finally reached the end of the Q&A. Yeah.
I think we're Gucci.
We are good to go. So thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys as always. Remember to stay vigilant, stay thirsty for knowledge, and ignore the nonsense. Peace.
100%. See ya.
Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. These motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all deep. Everybody.